long run in if it's on Saturday. Moved mine to Sundays, but whatever it is, hopefully it's starting out good.
Yeah, exactly. So as always, we want to kind of keep these short to the point and and give you guys some good information so you can get to your Saturdays. So as we've been saying each week as well, we just try to give you guys a little bit of information so you can weave this in to your running schedule, to your daily lifestyle. And these are things that affect all of us because we're runners. We end up having tight hip flexors because we sit a lot. Myself, I'm super guilty of
Yeah, a
this.
lot of times it's due to our lifestyle. A lot of us have, our bodies were designed to move all day. They were not designed to sit, let alone sit in one position. When it sits in one position, it shortens the muscle. Your body has a memory, so it thinks if it's in this position for a long time, that that's the ideal, and it will conform to shortening that, and that keeps it kind of tight, and it just limits that range of motion. So we're going to talk about that today because like I said, that's a huge problem that a lot of not even non-runners, but people just with the lifestyle that they have. But it immensely affects runners if you do have this.
Yeah, and again, whether this is describing you or I'm sure you have family and or friends or coworkers who this will fit into exactly.
I've mentioned this before.
Yeah.
It's a pretty common thing for a lot of people.
It's a very common thing, and I can't remember who asked about this last week, and so it was ironic that we were doing this week anyway. I think it was Nan. But thank you for asking because your timing is perfect. So we'll get into today here, and actually I'm gonna have to move something here. No. Okay, hold on one second here to grab something here. We a little bit of a different setup today, but we're all good. And there we go. So now it was just a little bit of a snafu here, tech-wise, guys. We're sorry about that.
Yeah, we're not professionals, so
yeah, exactly. So it's all good. So okay, yeah. So we're going to get into today, as we say each week. This is not medical advice.
Research with this. There's tons of stuff on this. So if you have any questions or anything like that, don't take us for face value. We're just giving you the information with the information that we know, but always check,
and that we
check
research, and that works for us. But you got to make that decision for you, obviously, right? And as I state here, you can overcome anything and anyone you strive to be, which is what we are trying to work on each and every day from our perspective. So again, we're going to talk about type hip flexors. We got a little video again in the gym here, and we'll roll that here in just a moment and showing you some specific exercises that we do that can help address these nasty type hip flexors. So recap last week real quick again is we talked about tight calves because it corresponds.
That's a huge problem for a lot of runners too. And these are things that really affect our biomechanics. It affects how we run, how efficiently we run. And when these are not, we don't have the proper mobility in these areas and the length that these muscles have, then they can't perform like they're supposed to, and they're not going to have the power, the force that they need. Because remember, running is a high impact sport. So, and it's hard. We want to make it as easy as possible. The more functional, the more our muscles can work the way they're supposed to, have the right lengths that they're supposed to, so they operate right. Makes running easier, and don't we all want that? And it also makes us injury resilient.
Yeah, and again, this is impacting your daily life in addition to your running, right? And this is why it's so key to do this.
Especially as we get older, it's a huge part of how you age well. And these are those things that a lot of us need to address.
Exactly. And so again, recapping last week, we showed you some foam rolling with your different calf muscles because there's numerous ones that are there. Two muscles, I should say. Yeah, not numerous, but two. Static stretch.
It's kind of a 4-step process that you do. You loosen up the tissue, get some blood flow going there. It's tight, it's shortened, so that we want to lengthen it. So that's why we do that static stretch to actually lengthen it. And then we do an isolated thing too on the opposite side. You want to strengthen if something is tight on one side, there's something lengthened and tends to be weak on the other side. So we showed you an isolated strength exercises and then one to integrate it all in that works with balance. So we're going to do that same theme today. This is, and it sounds like a lot, but really you can kind of do these in like 5 to 10 minutes. That can, if you consistently do that, because with consistency is the key to everything, as we say. But if you do that, you'll start to see those tissues will start to respond, those muscles will start to respond, and you'll be able to function better.
Yeah, exactly. So I love the theme. It's foam roll, static stretch, do some isolation, and then some different integration as well. And you'll be shocked at the results you will obtain. So today there's similars in terms of the lovely foam roller. We don't have our foam roller with us today right here, hold up, but you guys know what that is.
You know what it looks like.
Yeah, so we do that.
So those hip flexors are those muscles. There's 4 muscles that sit on top of your on the top of your quads. You have your rectus femoris, your sartorius, pectinemus, and the psoas. The psoas and the iliac, they kind of iliopsoas. They kind of lump those two guys together. But those are the main ones that do. And what do our hips do? It's a huge. This is the pivotal point that allows our legs can move in all different planes. All 3 planes because of this amazing hip joint that we have and how that ball and socket that it can rotate, it can turn, it can do all these things. But when we're asking to do these things, especially with running, we're talking about flexion and extension. Those are the big movements. With running, if you think of these guys being tight on the front side, that limits you being able to pull your knee up, that flexion part of it, and that's going to affect the backside, which we get all of our power from the backside, from our glutes. That is what drives that extension. So when these are imbalanced, like I said, a lot of times it's because of sitting that tightens up these areas. When that happens, we just don't have that proper movement. So these are the 4 steps going to demonstrate to loosen, lengthen, strengthen, and then integrate.
Yep, exactly. So we got a little video here we're going to walk through. I'm going to stop my share real quick. I'm going to go to another screen here so we can show you guys a good example. I think you'll appreciate this. Again, it's similar to last week in terms of a little demonstration here. And just filming Patty here at the local little tiny gym we have here. So it's actually nice and convenient. But in any event here, again, we're going to just kind of walk through it.
Yeah, the audio didn't come in very well last week or whatever, so we'll just kind of talk through that. But as I show you, it's those muscles that are on top of the quads. You're gonna
yeah, I just want to rewind it for just a second here, just to show again your the various areas here. Again, you want to use the foam roller ideally to lengthen it up. Right there where Patty's pointing, that's where the TF. Those are the muscles that are getting tight right in there. So right there, she's got her hand. Those are the ones that are tight, and those are the ones from sitting because now they're shortened, right? So we use the foam roller. And if you've never done this, then maybe a little bit tender at first, so kind of ease into it.
Yeah. So anytime you foam roll, you want to take a deep breath in and breathe out. You want to be relaxed. If you haven't done this or whatever, you might have pain. You don't want to have pain. These are it's just kind of short movements that you're going to do up and down. You do one inch per second. But if you have if it's intense pain or whatever, you're going to release up a little bit, take about 10% off of that. You need to be able to breathe through this, relax through this. That's going to allow the relaxation of those muscles. So it might seem a little awkward. You can move it back and forth kind of along there. If you do on the other side of your hip bone, that's going to get that TFL. If you have any pain on the outside of your knee or any IT band issues, which a lot of runners have, you can also foam roll that area too.
And if you're resistant to foam rolling like I was, I encourage you to at least try because you'll be shocked at how good it feels. It's going to be it's like getting a massage to some degree. Not the same, but in terms of the similar, like, ooh, that feels pretty good after you're done with it. Right?
When you feel loosened up, it's amazing how good you feel. Now this is the standing hip flexor stretch. start with both feet there. You're going to put them out. You want both your feet pointed forward and parallel. Um, and that's going to, you should feel that stretch there. Now, a lot of times what happens is people arch their lower back. So you have to do that pelvic tilt, that posterior tilt, which just means you squeeze your glutes, you pull your navel in to your spine, and that allows you to be in the right hip position. If your back is arched, you're not going to get that stretch. So when you make that little posterior tilt, you're going to feel that stretch deeper in those muscles that you're trying to stretch. And you hold it 30 seconds on both sides to get that release.
You'll be shocked at this one alone, just from this standing position, how much you're going to feel that tightness on the front side of your hips, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Patty's talking through here, making sure your hips are there. That's that movement right there that we're trying to get to, right?
That's the flexion that gets limited. If that's limited, any limitations or tightness on the front side is going to cause weakness and lengthening the wrong muscle tension length on the back side, which is our glutes. Our glutes is the powerful thing. So for the isolated strength exercise, you stop this. For the isolated strength exercise, you want to strengthen the backside because that tends to be our glutes tend to be weak. When we're sitting all day, we're not really engaging our glutes, and we're keeping our hip flexor muscles all tightened in a shortened position, so that these all our muscles and all these actions have certain tension length relationships that they have, and they like to be in for optimal range of motion. So when we alter any of that, then we get altered movement patterns, and that can, like I said, affect our daily activities and especially affect running. So the backside are going to be our glutes, but mainly the one that comes out the side, your glute medius. You have three glute muscles or whatever. The glute medius comes out to the side, and that's what stabilizes. I talked about doing walking lunges, this week. Your glute medius stabilizes your pelvis. So if you try to do walking lunges and you're wobbling and doing that, that means you need to strengthen that, stabilize that. Anything that strengthen or to strengthen that your glute medius are lateral, anything out to the side. So anything in that frontal plane, that would be, ice skaters, that would be your leg lifts, lateral leg lifts. So that is the movement that you're going to want to do for this one. And you're going to actually want to, I think I show it on the floor. You can do it standing with a resistance band.
Actually show it here on the floor when we get
to that spot. Or you can do it on the floor. But that, like I said, that affects that stability. We know if you have any pelvic movement or if you have a pelvic or your hips drop when you're running, that causes a lot of issues. So you just get down on the ground, get in a comfortable position. You want to point your toe down when you do that raise. That will actually isolate that glute medius. So your TFL, the one on the front, is not actually being incorporated for this movement. So
right, that's why you can see here, she is pointing her toe at the ground. If you look at that, and you'll feel that in that hip right there when you point the toe, and just do these leg raises on the side.
And if you have one of those little bands, putting that gives you that extra resistance. That's a great thing to really strengthen this area. A lot of runners, we do our squats, we do our lunges, we do those heavy things or whatever for our glutes. We neglect that glute medius is just as important. I said it fans out and it stabilizes that pelvis. So we've done. You stop it. We've done. We did a foam roller up that tissue. We stretch it.
Static stretch. Yep.
Remember, because it's tight, so we want to lengthen that. So we're lengthening that. That exercise is going to isolate the area on the backside that is weak. It's usually the opposite of the antagonist that is weak if the prime mover is tight. So that's what does.
That's kind of step 3 in the process.
Yeah, that's going to strengthen up. Like I said, mainly your glute medius is a big one to strengthen for that. And then this one just kind of incorporates an integration that you always kind of want to do. One of these ones that's a more of a total body move that actually works on, because heavy imbalance, having good posture, having all those things is such a huge part of just functional movement, but especially with running. And you're just gonna come up to here.
So a little side lateral, a little dip there,
You
I
always
guess.
want to like sink.
And then sink, yep.
Yeah.
And then raise your leg.
Your butt goes back. You sink down into it, to your range of motion, and then you stabilize that. So those are the things that are give you that more range of motion that are going to help with those tight hip flexors. Sorry.
That's okay.
You're going
yeah, no,
on over there.
That's right.
But that's going to help because even if you don't have pain, or even if you're like, oh, it's just annoying, I know they're kind of tight, but not addressing that over time, even though you're not experiencing pain, is going to cause degeneration in the bone, the tissues, the tendons that are surrounding this joint. And over time, that can affect your knee, that can affect your lower back, anything that in one area that is not functioning right is going to affect things up, above and below, the kinetic chain. So that probably took, 5-10 minutes.
Yep. Super easy to do, right?
Super easy to do. And it's going to improve, like I said, make running easier, make you more efficient. Definitely, if you're trying to get faster, this is a huge, huge, huge part of it. But just like I said, with overall functional movement, it's super important.
Yeah, especially the functional movement, because you think about our lifestyles, again, we're sitting way too much. That's, myself, I'm super guilty of that, just not getting up and moving around. But then these muscles get tight and weak. You get the tightness in the front and the weakness in the back, and you start cascading from there, which starts to affect your daily life, which is not a good thing. So again, the 4 steps are foam roll, 30 seconds, one time for each side.
30 seconds, you would hold an area that you have for 30 seconds. Like if you go down, you're like, ooh, okay. If it's painful, you're going to back off for 10% of that. You don't want it to be painful. You're going to breathe through it, but you're going to hold that tender area for 30 seconds. If you're not feeling it, any specific really tender area, you can kind of rotate around back and forth, up and down until you feel that and you'd hold it. Otherwise, you're just going to do that for about 90 seconds continuously at that 1 inch per second.
Yep. And then the standing hip flexor, which is the one that if you've never done that, hopefully you have, but you're going to really feel that, especially if you're super tight. It is going to shock you.
And it's a really good stretch. And you hold this exercise, you hold for 30 up to 60 seconds.
30 to 60 seconds, at least 30 seconds though. Yeah. Ideally. You can, it's super easy to do. And then as Patty demonstrated on the floor, the lateral leg raise, which again, if you're weak, which a lot of you probably are, you're going to feel that big time. And make sure
especially if you use a band.
Especially if you use a band, right? But even if you don't, if you've never done this in a while, you're going to be surprised. And remember to point that toe to the ground. That's critical to have that, because that's the other muscle you're trying to isolate it. Exactly.
That glute medius more.
And then that side lunge to balance. That one might be a little challenging for some, but just do your best to work up into it, because that, especially the balance where you do the leg raise at the very end.
We should always be working on balance, because running is a series of one-legged hops. So we should have good balance to be able to run. It's just the way it is. But you can do 10, obviously 10 on each side. That's a good thing. With the leg raises too. It's going to be, a total of 20 or 10 on each side.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was from last week, so we don't want that in there. I don't know how that got in there. Or no, I went backwards, went the wrong way. So anyway, stop the share here. So,
I've done this 100 times.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So anyway, we just want to close out and, wish you guys a happy Saturday. Hopefully you found this helpful. Again, the goal is just to make those incremental movements so we can stay flexible. We can stay, give ourselves the best. Mobility is about everything, right? We want to give ourselves.
It takes strength. It takes all these things. But 5 minutes, 10 minutes, ideally a couple times a day, a couple times a week, however you can do that is going to make a big difference. Like I said, not only in your daily activities, but especially in running. And we want to keep doing. Always remember, running 2 to 3 times your body weight. It's a high impact sport. No matter how slow, how fast, no matter how you're going, you're still having that amount of impact. So you want to, these are the things we need to prioritize, having those muscles being able to function the way they're supposed to, because we're asking it to do a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So just in closing out, enjoy your Saturday. If you guys want any help to get started, because we know a lot of people get stuck, they start, they stop, they start, they stop, and then they get confused, don't know what to do. But just go to runtips.us/call, and you can set up a time with us. We can help at least get you started if that's something you would like to do, but it's up to you
Any
at that
specific
point.
questions, if I know it, I'll answer it. If not, I will find it out.
Yep, exactly. So runtips.us/call for those of you listening on the podcast, but that's the best place to go to get started in that regard. So with that, we're going to cut it. Look at this, right on time today.
Yeah.
So well, hopefully you guys get out, enjoy your Saturday. A lot of fall weather.
Some good sunshine, the beautiful weather. I know you guys are having awesome weather. So,
yeah.
So are we finally in South Florida.
Exactly. So great. Have a great weekend, guys, and we'll see you again next week.
Okay. Bye now.